page 21. The subject of our body and its sacredness is the core subject of today's daf. It's a well-known tale or joke or story that there was a soldier once that committed suicide, and then the armed forces put him in a trial. For what? For damaging a armed property, because the moment you enlisted, you are part of armed forces, and therefore you have a number, you are part of them. In that sense, just to get the spirit of these discussions, in Judaism, our body, in a way, is not ours. We have the right to make decisions, yet the concept in traditional Judaism is the body, it's a pikadon, it's something that the Almighty gave us for a certain period of time in order to serve Him. Le'ovda u'leshomra, that's the way we understand the conversation several weeks ago between God and the first man Adam. That's the way we treated our body, with the most holy and respectful way. And there is a concept in Judaism that's called the sanctity, kedushat haguf, the sanctity of the body. With that said, questions that we're going to present. First is a very common question: what is the Jewish approach for tattoo? We have the concept in the Torah we studied yesterday and day before yesterday, but what happens if someone makes the decision to have a tattoo? Is that permissible, and how far we go with this? A question that I expose in more than 2 decades in rabbinate is, what do you do with the burial? Do you bury someone with a tattoo in his or her body as everyone else? How you treated people who wants to convert to Judaism and the body has a lot of tattoos, especially when it's come to duck the person in a mikveh in order to the final stage in Judaism. But that's, again, part of broader discussion. The beginning of our discussion is about damaging indirectly the body, such as, God forbid, should never happen to anyone, but someone heard he lost a loved one, business went sour, all kind of other circumstances, and a person start damaging himself or herself, taking out hair, damaging the body, and doing things like that. What is the Torah approach? What is the Jewish approach to all of this? Let's start with page 20b, 11 lines from the bottom of the page. Fourth and the final prohibition listed in the Mishnah was as follows: V'amsaret srita achat, meaning someone who damaged his own body in a way that he makes some type of cut within his body, even it's one. So the Mishnah said, if he did it as expression of sorrow for the loss of loved one, he received a Malkot, because it's a violation of one of the Torah prohibitions. So the rabbis want to understand that, and they zoom in the understanding of the book of Vayikra, Leviticus chapter 19, verse 28. The text said, "V'seret lanefesh lo titnu bivsarchem," which is the cut, literally meaning cut within expression of sorrow for the corpse, for the deceased, you shall not do within your flesh. So the Gemara asks, "V'seret," because the pasuk used the term "and cut," Yachol afilu sarat al beito shenafal. It may happen that incorporate in that prohibition someone who cut himself for sorrow, such as his house, God forbid, collapsed. Ve'al sfinato shetav'a bayam, or God forbid, his boat, his ship, was sank in the sea. Talmud lomar, we derive from the pasuk that lanefesh, to teach you, eno chayav ela alamet bilvad. When we have this concept of a person that received malkot, literally meaning lashes, is for a violation of damaging yourself as a result of sorrow for passing of a dead person. There are places that say that not by biblical term, by the rabbinic term, there is a prohibition to damage yourself for other things, that it's not for the deceased. You see it in the Bach on the code, you read Kuf Peit 180. based on the Rambam, Hilchot Avodah Zarah, chapter 12, and you see it in the Tur as well. I'd like to paraphrase from the Sefer HaChinuch, which I believe it's about 11th century rabbinic writing, and he said, Nim'as beyoter ve'asur, that it's prohibited, even the other form, not only solely for losing the deceased. Not everyone goes along with this. Just as a side note, they have Rabbi Moshe Isserlich, the Rema, and the Bet Yosef, that they hold that somehow it's, in a hindsight, it's okay. The Levush explain, we have in Judaism, that's the beauty in Judaism, that's called En Adam Nitpas al Tza'aro. A person should not hold always countable when he is in a deep state of contrition and remorse. When a person in such a sad mindset, he or she can do things that total out of order. So when it's come to the deceased, we have Gzeirat HaKatuv, we have a clear statement in the Torah. Other things, according to Bet Yosef and Rama, we go more lenient. That's the idea of Veseret LaNefesh. Not everyone, as we said, it's a discussion. The Chacham Tzvi, for example, asked a question. We know that the person cannot damage, as we said in introduction, himself. So he challenged the Bet Yosef that said, all right, we understand that there's a different category between damage yourself for the dead person or damage yourself for other sorrow in life, but how you let free or let lenient in a situation like that. So anyway, the Chacham Tzvi left it in the Tzarichiyut. Also is a discussion among the Achronim, as well as the earliest rabbis. If a person does something in a state of sleeping or half sleeping, how you treated him. So based on this Gemara, it's not 100% clear. ומניין למסרת 5 שריטות על מת אחד שהוא חייב על כל אחד ואחת. How do you know that if someone cut himself in a sense, cut himself 5 times over one corpse, and even he did it in one warning, but bevat achat together, that he received Malkot for each and every one of them. Talmud lomar veseret lechayev al kol srita usrita. We derive from the word cut. Cut, it's written in a singular way to teach us that each and every time the person cut himself, he deserved Malkot, the way that Rashi and Rashash explain to us. Otherwise, the pasuk should say ulenefesh lo tisretu. The fact that it said in a singular vaseret, or vav, the Rivan said of vaseret, we derive that it's Malkot for each. Rabbi Yosei Omer, Rabbi Yosei elaborate, in other words, he extrapolates, he add another phase to that view of Tanakama, and he said, Minayin lemsaret srita achat al 5 metim shu chayav al kol achat v'achat. Imagine, hypothetically speaking, that someone expresses sorrow by cutting himself over 5 different deceased. So he basically deserved either the Bach said al kol echad ve'echad, but the idea is for each and every one of them. Talmud lomar la nefesh lechayev al kol nefesh ve'nefesh, because the Torah used particularly the word soul to obligate him for each and every departed soul over whom he made the single cut. So the question is, when you use the word la nefesh, it means that the person have in his mind when he did this cut on himself to each and every one of those souls. והאפיktei לביתו שנפל ולספינתו שטבעה בים. But when we speak about the first Tana in the Braita, he basically used that phrase already for exempting one who cut himself over, God forbid, his crisis, like we use just as example, house collapse, sheep that sank in the sea, and more. So there is nothing superfluous about the phrase. So how can Rabbi Yosei derive an additional din, additional law from that. So you can't say that Rabbi Yossi, Rashi explained, and Rivan that disputed that he did it also for his house, because la nefesh, think about it, over soul has to be for deceased, for losing the loved one particularly. 21, the Gemara respond and answer, Kasava Rabbi Yosei Srita Ugdida Achati. That the pasuk that said Vaseret lanefesh lo titnu bivsarchem, that you should not make within your flesh a cut. There is another important pasuk in the book of Dvarim, chapter 14. The pasuk said Lo tidgodedu gdida cut. So gdida cut, it's again, we get especially to the ancient time, even you still see it in some culture, that people express their tremendous sorrow by damaging themselves over losing the loved one. So even it's written in a way in two different languages or two different expressions to say in the Torah. One it's called srita, you can say cut, and one say gdida. It's some type of expression of grief within your body that you damage somehow, not really a expression of cut in that sense. But anyway, achat hi. So we understand it's one concept, which is, makes no difference how. As long as you damage your sacred God-given body because you sorrow over things that happen many times beyond your control, over the creator decisions. So the concept is we have in Judaism hatra'ah, which means we forewarning, we tell a person that he is prohibited. So the reason we do that is because the pasuk said veseret lanefesh, you should not cut the soul, not because of lo tidgodedu. The Kesef Mishneh differentiate, and he basically said that the forewarning concept is from the veseret lanefesh, but that's he said in Melchot Avodat chapter 12. But anyway, achati. So srita, gdida, cutting, damaging, it's all one concept. Uchtivatam, and it's written there in Dvarim, Deuteronomy chapter 14, you shall not, in a way, tidgodedu, you can say cut yourself. So they said lamet, for a deceased, for a dead person. So it means that the person did it, for example, for other things, such as a house that collapsed, a sheep that sang. La nefesh, apparently it's superfluous. So the Rabbi Yossi derived from that even a person did some type of cut within his body over 5 different diseases, he received 5 malkot. That's the way Ritva teaches us. The Tosfot Yom Tov said that the Gemara derived from the shinui lashon, the different expressions, because over there it's written la met, and in the book of Vayikra it's written la nefesh, which means for every nefesh, for every soul, he deserves malkot. The discussion among the Rishonim, and you see it also in the response of Achronim, how are you treating a person that did damage in the ubar, in the treifa? You know, we explained that different people who carries different either diseases or different stages of development, or a person that have a body that it's blemish, sick body, etc. Based on what we study in Sanhedrin, page 68, we treat it a little different. If you remember in Sanhedrin, which is a mind-boggling Gemara, they speak about Rabbi Akiva, Sanhedrin 68. They said that Rabbi Akiva, when he heard that the great Rabbi Eliezer is no longer among the living, he basically hit himself. He kabiv saro until until blood came out. So obviously they jump on that, the Mefarshim, on this sugya, and they said the greatest man like Rabbi Akiva did it. So there are some commentators that said it wasn't over the deceased, it's over HaTorah she'avda, over the great Torah scholarship and knowledge that in a way Rabbi Akiva were able to learn and transmit to his students by the learning of Rabbi Eliezer, and now there is no one to have this erudition, and no one Rabbi Akiva can ask, and that's the reason why he did it. The Meiri said the Isur is Davka Bifnei Amet, but over there it wasn't Bifnei Amet. But anyway, there's a lot of discussion. They bring this famous Gemara in Sanhedrin 68 to this sugya. Anyway, Amar Shmuel, Hamsaret Bichli Chayav. Shmuel said, don't think that it's only when a person physically uses finger to harm himself. One who inflicts a cut, srita cut, on himself and use an instrument. So instrument, we not differentiate what type of instrument between, razor, knife, or whatever it is liable for violating two prohibitions. And therefore he deserves Malkot. Veseret lanefesh, as we said, lo titnu bibsarchem, it's mesaret, and also because of lo titgodedu. Litgodedu, most of the Mefarshim say that it's using an instrument to harm yourself. That's the way the Pasuk said in the first book of Melachim, chapter 18, they expressed it, Vaitgodedu b'charavot u'barmachim, that at that ancient time they used the sphere. Gadad is like cutting, chaticha. You see it in the book of Daniel, chapter 4. They said, Godu ilana vekatzetsu anfoi. So, Yaguda kef, cut the heel. So, srita, it's like cutting the flesh, but not necessarily by physical cutting, but you can say it's not instrument, but using hand. Anyway, so it's a discussion what exactly he meant here, but in general they said that received two different Malkot because there's a two violation, one from the book of Vayikra and one from the book of Dvarim, one Veseret Lanefesh, and the second one is Lot Itgodedu. So the Gemara challenged and they said, Meitivei, Srita ugdida achat hi. So even we hear it in different Hebrew words. One is Srita and one is Gdida. One you said that is physically with the hand, another one is using an instrument. But we just said that it's one concept. The Torah prohibited for a person to damage his body out of great sorrow for losing a person. Ela shesrita biyad ugdida bechli. As we said, srita, you have to say that veseret lanefesh, the person using his hands, fingers or hands, depends how you treat it. Again, it's a discussion how you treated fingers, but the idea is using hands. Gdida is using an instrument. So the Aruch LaNer said, Medayek, he says that srita, only if it's come out blood, then you receive Malkot. That's the Aruch LaNer concept. But anyway, this Braita contradicted the view of Shmuel, because he said that even someone who uses an instrument, he is liable because the Pasuk said in Vayikra, Veseret lanefesh lo titnu bebsarchem. You should not damage your flesh. So Shmuel, hu de amar ke Rabbi Yosei, that he holds the same as Rabbi Yosei, that what? That the two different psukim is warn a person for one thing, srita, gdida, and is the same thing, that someone did chabura, did damage within his body, regardless if you use an instrument or physically directly with hands. The Ritva elaborates and says you cannot find any place that Rabbi Yossi hold that. The only derivative Shmuel have is because he have a separate set of Malkot for every person that did it. So therefore he put it in a separate statement. Now we're dealing with someone who did it, as you remember the Braita dealing with someone who did it as act of idol worship. Tanei Tana. So here it was one of the Amoraim that was very erudite in the Braitot. He taught us the following Braita. Kamei de Rabbi Yochanan, or some said Kamei de Rav Nachman. Almet, someone did damage in his body over a deceased. Ben biyad, ben bekli chayav, regardless if he did it with his hand or use an instrument, he received Malkot punishment. Why? Because the Torah prohibited to do any form of srita, that is a physical in a hand, or using an instrument. As we said, the derivative, the Rivan said from the text, is that that srita, it's in the hands, gdida is using instrument. However, al avodat kochavim, but if someone did it because he has cut himself in idolatrous worship, so now it's a total different story, it's a different rule. Beyad chayav, bichli patur. There are three types of idol worshipping in those days. You may argue and said in some phases in the world there's still idol worship, but here we deal in Talmudic time. It was one avodah ke'in pnim, the same way as the Jewish people used to deal with the ritual in the temple, meaning that they prostrate himself, or he bring a offering, sacrificial offering for the purpose of idol worshipping, or he sprinkle blood on the altar, or he brought different form of incense. So even it wasn't derech avodata, even it wasn't the path of which they idol worship, but it's still for that purpose, so he is deserved this chayav mitah, this punishment. The second one, if he did it the way that they do it, or if someone did it even derech bizayon, even he did it in a way to mock or denigrate that. For example, in those days they used to throw stones for special gods, Markulis, or release themselves. As long as it's a form of idol worshipping, even you intend to denigrate that, it's still a form of idol worshipping. Or if you do something that it's not the path of idol worshipping in that way, not even the way that we used to have a service in our holy temple, but you show a likeness to the idol worshipping. For example, you hug it, you kiss the idol, so it's not receive a capital punishment, but you're still in a violation of Torah law from the book of Shemot, chapter 23, verse 24. The Torah said, "Velota of them," you should not idol worshipping in any way. And the Gemara in Sanhedrin, page 60b, said that that's the prohibition. The big question Tosfot presented here, and the Maharam and others, what about if someone did it in Gdida, but not derech avodah, which means he using an instrument, but it's not the way of which the idol worship. So the big argument is how you did it and what he did. You see more on that in the Aruch Laner, you see in the Rambam, Ilchot Avodah Zarah, chapter 12. But the key is, what the Gemara said is, when it's come to this idol worshipping, if he does it with hand, he's liable to punishment for the sin of idol worship. But if he did it with instrument, he's exempt from punishment, since cutting himself on an instrument is not a form of idolatrous worship at all. So the Gemara asks, if that's the case, we just mentioned the pasuk in the first book of Kings, chapter 18. They said v'ha'ipchaktiv. They said about those Baal worshipper versus Eliyahu Hanavi, Eliyahu the prophet. So they want to wake up their false god that brings a fire on the altar that they prepare for that. Va'itgodedu kemishpatam b'charavot uvar machim. They said that part of their trying to idol of that god, they cut themselves with sword and spears according to their customs. That it means, you see from the pasuk, that cutting with an instrument is an established idolatrous practice. So why the Braita exempt from punishment a person who worship that way? Ela Eima, you have to teach the Braita in the reverse order, which means that someone did damage within his body for the purpose of idol worshipping. Beyad patur, bechli chayav. If he did it with hand, idol worship is exempt from punishment because it's not an act of worship. Versus if he used an instrument, he cut himself, then he reserved punishment because that's the way they do it. The Ritva elaborates, and the Ritva said that we go by the majority of people idol worshipping, how they really do that. If we find out that there are people who idol worshipping in the derech gdida, which is using the hands, so they can say also chayav mita as well. The Minchat Chinuch asks a question: if someone gided atzmo 5 pe'amim, someone did it 5 times for bishvil avodah zara achat, for one idol worshipping. So Minchat Chinuch said you can argue and you say that he receive only 1 Malkot and not more, and based on this sugya. It's a beautiful Minchat Chinuch. Anyway, the Mishnah continues and said, V'chayav, so the Gemara added, but said in different nuschaot, Chayav, al harosh, that a person is liable for rounding the corner of the head, 2 set of Malkot. Machvei Ravashi. So Rav Ashi showed them the place of the sidewalk. Sheben Pirkei Reisha. That's the Aim. That's the 2 places. So the Khatam Sofer have a big write-up in this sugya. And he said that Ikar HaChiyuv, the most important essence of the law, it's not so much the concept of peot, which is beautiful and nice, but that it should have, I'm just quoting his word, sheyehes se'ar bimkom tzeda'im, which means that it should be some hair at the place of the tzeda'im. The Mishnah continue, ve'al hazakan, if someone inappropriately cut the beard, so again, the destroying the 5 corners of the beard, a person is liable to total 5 Malkot penalty, 2 mikan u2 mikan, ו1 מלמטה. So מחווי רב אשי בין פרקי דינה. Rav Ashi show the joint of the beard to show his students which part are considered corner. So it's variety of opinion among the Rishonim. The code is, the way that Shulchan Aruch, the code of Jewish law said, the key is Yireh Shamayim lo yigaleach beta'ar. It's prohibited to use razor or any form of going under the roots of the hair. Rabbi Eliezer disputed Tanakama and he said, Omer im netalan. So Rabbi Eliezer said that says that if you remove the 5 corners, as one, he's liable to only 1 Malkot penalty. Kasavar chad lavhu. Rabbi Eliezer hold that a single prohibition that forbids a shaving of a beard's 5 corner. So therefore, even if one shave 5 separate corners, he is liable only for 1 single Malkot. And as we said, the Meromei Sadeh and the Ritva and others elaborates on how far you go with this, what exactly the intent and how a person did it. Ve'ino chayav ad sheyitlenu beta'ar. As we said earlier, the key is for liability unless you remove the beard with a razor. Tanu Rabbanan. The Torah said in the book of Vayikra, chapter 21, verse 5, Uf'ad zkanam lo yegalechu. The Torah said in regards to the Kohanim, the priests, they shall not shave the corner of their beard. So, Yachol afilu gilcho b'misparayim yechayav. Maybe if one just shave with the scissors, so you may say that he is liable to receive Malkot. Talmud lomar lo tashchit, because the Torah said you shall not destroy the corner of your beard. So it means if you cut with a scissor, you have the zifim. You see a little bit the hair not grown, but you see a sign of hair. So that's not considering a destroying, and therefore it's allow. The Nimukei Yosef explain that's the whole idea of nikar la'ain, but you can see it. I remember when I was in the army, we have a special training for officers, very rough training. So one of the things they used to do for us, especially those like us that didn't use a razor but use a machine, right? So the officer used to come and with his hand used to check. And many times he punished us, or tried in those days, this is back to the 80s, because we didn't use razor. Anyway, so lechatchila, the Mfarshim said, a person can use scissors to cut, as long as it's not ke'ein ta'ar, which means that using a scissor that's such a thin one that is the same, almost the same as a razor. That's problematic. But other, the Ritva said midat chasidut, that the proper way is not to I know in many places in Israel, I assume that's here too, but I remember those years, you bring your machine to a respected, prominent posek, great rabbi, when you're buying a shaving machine, and he have the capability to check and make sure that it's not in violation of Torah law. There are Israelis company, I'm not sure here how it works, that you can take a machine that's not go like a razor, that's go in a way that you still feel something. So again, the prohibition is ta'ar, is razor. אי לא תשחית יכול אם לכתוב במלקט ואור היתני יהא חייב. So if that's the case, the idea of the hashchata, destruction, so maybe one might think that even if he remove the corner with a planes which cut the hair down to the skin, he will be liable. Talmud lomar, the pasuk teaches, lo yegaleichu. The Kohanim, they shall not shave. The word shave implies removing the beard with an instrument commonly used for that activity, which precludes planes. So the Trumat Hadeshen in Reish Tzadik Hey have a write-up which instrument is part of that or not. The Meir is more lenient. The Tzemach Tzedek said that Barabanan is prohibited. How you treated melaket and rihatani. Anyway, conclusion. The Braita concluded and said, Ha-keitzad, when a person deserves Malkot for cutting the beard, giluach sheyesh bo hashchata, when you have a destruction that you go under the skin, it's a normal act of shaving that remove hair down the skin. You go, it's almost in the modern days, you have a laser surgery. You see it mainly for women, but that's the machine goes in such a way that you either no longer can have hair, or you go to such a level that it's cut the root or go under the skin. So that's the issue. Heve omer ze ta'ar. So basically any type of shaving that using a razor, that's the prohibition. Now, the idea of lo yigaleichu and lo tasir pa'ad zkancha, the Chtam Sofer and others said that that's the analogy, the verbal analogy. So in short, Caesar, regular Caesar, not super skin Caesar, but regular Caesar, it's not prohibited. It's a big discussion among Gedolei Israel, for example, the late great Reb Moshe Feinstein, Zecher Tzadik Livracha, and many others, how you treated those machines in our days. And as we said earlier, a person should bring the machine, if he wants to shave, to a prominent posek. Noda B'Yehuda, it's a famous story about the great Rabbi Landau. in those days in Prague, in Czechoslovakia those days. So Rabbi Landau wrote a book, Rabbi Yehuda Landau. It's called Noda B'Yehuda. It's a responsa. So over there, he allowed a person doing Chol HaMoed, the intermediary day of the holidays, like Sukkot, like Pesach, to shave by a non-Jew. L'tzorech parnasa, the person needs it for appearances, like you have people who needs the appearance, that's the way they make a living. So the Noda B'Yehuda said, Tam HaKamus, I have my own reasoning. So the Khatam Sofer beautifully wrote in Siman Kuf Zayin, the Khatam Sofer said that I'll be like Holech Rachila, going to be a little bit kind of joking, gossiping, to tell you the reasoning of the Noda B'Yehuda. He said that the reason it's because there are people who, if you don't let them do that, the next thing that happens, they use a razor. So he differentiated between a biblical prohibition, which is using the razor, versus a non-Jew doing Chol HaMoed, that he hold that it's the most you can argue is rabbinic, but not Isur de Oraita, but many others do not go by that Noda B'Yehuda heter. רבי אליעזר אומר, אפילו לקטור במלכת והיתני חייב. Rabbi Eliezer said, even if he removes the corner with planes, he is liable for Malkot. So the Gemara said, Ma nafshach, the view of Rabbi Eliezer is challenged regardless. I gamir gzeira shava. If you tell me that Rabbi Eliezer received from his teacher a verbal analogy, he juxtaposed the word pe'at, it's written in a verbal analogy twice, the word pe'at, which is lo tashchit, lo tegaleichu, you shall not destroy, shall not shave. So therefore he prohibited to cut the beard even with the scissor, because he did not prohibit it melaket and hitani, because he doesn't say that that's a hashchata, the Rivan explained. So it means that apparently it's okay. So liba'ei ta'ar. So if that's the case, he should hold the required razor for Malkot liability, as we explained in the Braita before. Ilo gamir gzeira shava. If you tell me that he did not receive for his this verbal analogy, because as you remember, we studied in Psachim, page 66, that a person, a no dan gzeira shava me'atzmo, a person cannot make this verbal juxtaposition by himself, only if he receive it from his teacher, as Rashi said in Sukkah, page 11, that goes to Moshe Rabbeinu. So that's included Melaket and Rehitani, and apparently even the Kohanim prohibited. Misparaim Namei Lo. So even when it's come to using the scissor, apparently should also be prohibited. So either you said law, scissor also should not be permitted. So Marshal, like the Marshal take out the word law or not have the Girsa law. So apparently, if that's the case, even using a scissor, it's prohibited. Or the Rivan said misparai menale. How do you know that the scissor it's different? Or how do you know that it's okay to use cut with a scissor? Anyway, the intent is the same intent, and the Aruch LaNer tried to say that the Kohanim prohibited to use a scissor for cutting the beard. Le'olam gamir gzera shava. Rabbi Eliezer did receive from his teachers the tradition of this verbal analogy, and therefore he allowed to cut a beard using scissors, because that's not considered hashchata, it's not considered destroying. And regarding to the question you ask, if that's the case, one should be exempt, even someone who used planes, melaket be rehitani, you answer v'kasavrei haneiname giluach avdei, that these planes too effect shaving. So what you see here, they fulfill the requirement of both psukim. They shave, quote unquote, and they destroy the beard down to the surface of the skin. A little short story I would like to share with you. I heard about the great tzaddik, the Amshin of a Rebbe, may he rest in peace, who was a great Hasidic Rebbe, survived the Shoah and came here to the city of New York. Unlike the way people think around the world, there are poor people as well here, and he was most of his life in the, to say the least, as a person in needs or even indigent. So anyway, it was a nadiv, it was a very generous individual that felt connected to the Amshin of a Rebbe, so he sent him money from time to time. And one time, that generous person who lived in total faraway state came to visit the Amshin of a Rebbe. So the Amshin of a Rebbe said to him, I need to ask you a question. He said, sure, Rebbe, what's the question? He says, I see that you have no beard. How exactly you shave your beard? So the person said, I'm using a mishcha, I'm using a certain cream that does not affect, in those days, the inner skin. Those days they used to have those, I forgot the name, those cream, anyone knows? Anyway, cream that it's shaving but not getting, you still see a beard from that. So the Rebbe laughed and said, thank you very much. And he opened his drawer. Listen to this. The Amshin of a Rebbe opened his drawer and he showed him all the money that the person sent to him over the years. And he said, since the day one you sent me those monies and I'm in a great need, I always put it in my drawer, and I said, one day you're going to come here and I'm going to ask you the question. And now, thank God, you reveal that you're not in violation of Torah law by using razor to shave, and I feel comfortable to use your donation. So even it was a great dachkut, the Rebbe lives in a great needs, he did not feel comfortable, the Amshin of a Rebbe, to use the money from that generous person if he is cutting his beard with razor, which again, fascinating thing. Now about to go to the Mishnah Kedosha, the sacred Mishnah, teach us as another prohibition, biblical prohibition. If a person does that b'mezid, with intent, he deserves Malkot. Now, the truth is, the Mishnah brings a list of things that is a chidush, that is something new for us. And now the whole concept of a ktovet ka'aka, putting tattoo in one's skin. First and foremost, I want to put a disclaimer. So this class shall not be a halachic class when it's come to this. And each person, if you are care about this and sincere about it, ask you prominent posek or rabbi about this law of tattoo. What we are doing is only le'orer, to wake up our souls to think about it. Akdosha hakotev ktovet ka'aka, someone who writes tattoo. It's a very large discussions among the rabbis what's involved. There are several ways to do the tattoo. There is a way that's called in Hebrew dio hameyatzer ktovet. Excuse me. You have an ink. You take first the ink and you penetrate it with the ink inside the skin, or you do some engraving, my little understanding, in a skin, and then you put in an ink. Everyone said that when it's come to ktovet ka'aka, to tattoo, it's prohibited. Obviously, the Mefarshim try to say that if someone does a drakon or something that symbolizes idol worshipping, it is a violation of biblical But if someone did other things, as much as is prohibited, it's rabbinic. But let's first see the Mishnah. Hakotev ktovet ka'akar. Meaning he used a knife or used other materials. So one, it's called srita babasar, which means you make a cut in the flesh. And number two is milui bedio. You open that hole and you filled it with an ink. So the question is, how far you go. Some say that it's depending on the order when it's come to Malkot. Some say that it's depend of the image. But let's first see the Mishnah. The Mishnah says, katav velo ki'aka. ki'aka velo katav eino chayav ad sheyiktov v'yika'akea bidyo uvichol. So the Mishnah said, if a person he write, for example, he put a coloring and he writes, but it not prick in the skin, or if he prick in the skin, but he did not write a coloring agent on the skin beforehand, so he's not liable to receive Malkot unless his write and pricks on into the skin with black ink and with blue dye, ובכל דבר שהוא רושם, or anything that makes mark. Let's first finish the Mishnah. רבי שמעון בן יהודה, משום רבי שמעון אומר, אינו חייב עד שיכתוב את השם. He is not liable unless he writes the name of the Almighty. שנאמר, because the pasuk said, וכתובת כעקה לא תיתנו בכם אני השם. The pasuk tells us a tattoo you should not place upon yourself, I'm your Lord, your God. My dear friends, there is a responsa called Minchat Asher. Many times you get unbelievable reaction when you read a responsa. But this is one of those that, in a way, at least for me, is shocking. It is the great Rav Osher Weiss. He was in Yerushalayim, was in London. It's a great Badatz Posek, great rabbi. And he wrote that responsa, painful question. Was a lady that became a Baal Tshuva, became religious. Years earlier, she was not only a kind of atheist, whatever you call it, gnostic atheist, but she on purpose have someone inscribe tattoo on her part of her leg. She did it on purpose, le'achis, the full name of God, the Holy of Holies name, Havaya, Yud Kei Vav Kei, and she declared she did it purposely kedei levazot, in order to violate, denigrate, mock the name of the Almighty. So if it wasn't clearly written by the great Rav and Dayan Weiss, it's hard to believe, but he explained it also beautifully. He said that we allow in this case to erase the name of God, even it's prohibited by our Torah. And why is that? He said the whole purpose, I just give you the abbreviation. He said, Lo ta'asun ken la'Hashem Elokeichem, lo levazot. When the Torah said you should not do this in the name of the Almighty God, which is the prohibition against writing and erasing the Holy of Holies name of God, it's because it's mocking and denigrating the holy name of God. But he said, Kan habizayon le'ashir. Here the denigration of name of Almighty God is by keeping it on her leg. That's basically continuing desecration of name of God, and therefore mechika ze kibud. He said by doing so is in a way act not to allow that to keep. That's basically the honoring name of God. Now, it's important to know part of this concept, as the Rivan said, it's using it for the idol worshipping. Et Hashem, meaning those names of God that they are using to idol worship, as part of tattoo, Ritva explained, that's the prohibition. And the source in the book of Vayikra, chapter 19, verse 28, is basically an expression that anything that it's related to writing is prohibited. But as we said earlier, the Aruch Laner and others said that this is, as much as is a violation, is in a category of rabbinic. Again, it's hard to prove from the text that is direct violation of Torah law, but everyone agrees that it's violation. The question is if it is a rabbinic or Torah. Once in a city, you see a fellow, Afro-American, came to a kosher restaurant. And he saw several people of us wearing kippot and sitting there on Broadway, you know, one of those kosher places. So he goes, he wants to have conversation. And we are not comfortable to have conversation. We saw on his forehead a name of God, the full name of God. And the person asked him, what is this? Where are you coming from? Why are you doing that? He explained that he starts study Kabbalah and whatever. That's what they explained to him, and he get enthused. Is a response called Me'il Tzedakah, chapter 31. So here have a big chakira, big write-up, if this prohibition of Ktovet Ka'aka is a srita be'alma, is just a little cut, or he needs to have ot, he needs to have a letter, and then fill up with the ink. So he bring the Rambam, he bring the Shulchan Aruch, and eventually he bring the Korban Aaron, and he tried to argue that biblically speaking, that as far as the writing is is something that is clear, Ktovet Ka'aka. Rabbinic, he said, even Tzurat Ot. He argued even from the Melechet Shabbat that it's enough to have one Ot. The great Gaon, which my son Natan and I have the privilege to get his blessings and be in contact, Rav Chaim Kanievsky, Shlita in Bnei Brak, he wrote a book, among many, it's called Siach HaSadeh. So in that book is a special kuntras, a special write-up, it's called Patshegen Aktav. And he brings a lot of sources. If I'm not mistaken, they have Kaf Aleph Simanim, 21 chapters, all the halachot of Ktovet Ka'aka. In short, it's a violation. Now, in the Gemara later on we'll discuss details, but is a Maharil Diskin wrote a responsa. So in the last kuntras, Kuf Hey, he wrote that basically that the Ktiva Ika Maaseh, that it's a two violation one time. But in short, no rabbi can say that it's okay to do any form of this. Question is, in any case, we need to erase it, but sometimes it's a surgery, sometimes it's painful, sometimes the person is no longer among the living, sometimes it's a conditional before final stage of conversion and more. In general, we said that in those questions, one should ask a prominent posek. I remember one time I have a case of a congregant when I live in Maryland, and that person passed away, or to be exact, he was in a competition, boat competition, and somehow, it's not clear how, it was a huge storm and he suddenly died, and they need to have a quick burial, but the thing is, it was tattoo all over his body. So I went to the Rosh Yeshiva of Ner Israel, Rav Aaron Feldman, Shlita, and I asked, and he referred me to Reb David Feinstein. It's, again, great posek in our generation that deal with this painful question. But my point is, when one approach those questions, should ask a prominent posek, well-recognized, respected rabbi who familiar with that. Amar le Rav Acha bre de Rava le Rav Ashi. When Rabbi Shimon said that he is not deserve Malkot, ad sheyichtov ani Hashem mamash. So the Nimukei Yosef and the Ritva said that the prohibition is to write, I am the Lord God. אמר לי לא, כדתני בר כפרה, אינו חייב עד שיכתוב שם עבודת כוכבים, that he needs to write the name of pagan deity. שנאמר, the pasuk said, as we mentioned earlier, וכתובת כאקה לא תיתנו בכם, אני השם. You should not put a tattoo on your skin, meaning name of idol worshipping, אני השם ולא אחר. I'm your Lord, and there is no other deity. So it means that you are forbidden to tattoo the name of any false god on your flesh. So the Rambam in Hilchot Avodat Kochavim chapter 12 said that in those days it was very heavy, that idol worshipping worshippers used to write the name or etc., the details of their idols, and they want to show that they are totally devoted and dedicated to their false god, so they used to put it on their body. That's the way the Meiri and the Ritva explains in the Mishnah. According to the Sefer HaChinuch, Reish Nun Gimel, he said that even according to the sages, the root for that, the essence of that prohibition, it's because that was the minhag, that was the tradition of the idolaters, to write the name of their false god, pagan god. But the idea is they feel that because that's their tradition of idol worshippers, the Torah prohibited us to stay away by any form, and therefore prohibited any form of tattoo. But Amar Rav Malkiya, Amar Rav Ada בר אבא, אסור לו לאדם שייתן אפר מקלה על גבי מכתו, מפני שנראית ככתובת קעקע. Here we go to the next stage. A person cannot take ashes that used to come from the kiraim, which means that burning ashes, either because people may think that that's the implication of Ephor Makleh, the one that they use for Para Aduma, but most of the Mefarshim said that it just symbolize the tattooing for somehow permanent things. So there is a concept the Ritva explained that we learn many times. It's called Halacha Mar'it Ha'ain, the way that we see in our eyes and recognize. The problem is that even it appear ostensibly that it was made solely for healing purposes, but because it can appear, as we said, for idol worshipping, the rabbis put a boundary and said that it's prohibited. Some argue and said that it's not biblical, Minchat Chinuch and others, because they said that it's like someone קעקע ולא כתב. Anyway, אמר רב נחמן ברי דרב איקה, שפוד, שפחות וגומות. He said that that's the שמועות, that's שפוד שבצלו בשר, that's Gemara in ביצה 28, and שפחות, that's a Mishnah in Ketubot 59, and גומות is the Nida 52, that's a different סוגיות. רב מלכיו, that's from him, and בלורית, אפר מקלה וגבינה, רב מלכיה. Rav Papa disputed it, and Rav Papa said, אמר מתניתין ומתניתה רב מלכיה, שמעתתה, which means memrot that relate to halachot that Amoraim said, רב מלכיו, וסימנך מתניתה מלכתה. A Tanaic statement is a queen, Malkiya. My benayu, what's the difference? Ika benayu shfachot. Who is the said that the saying of the maidservants, which elaborate on the Mishnah, if it was Rav Malkiyo or Rav Malkiya. Rav Bibi bar Abaye Kapid, afilu arivda dechusilta, meaning he was so scrupulous that he was insist that mikle ashes not place even on the tiny puncture of the lancet of skin, because it will appear like tutoring, and then it's the chidush is the Adeliyahu and others said it's so small that it's a problematic. As we said, Shut Me'il Tzedakah in Lamed Aleph said that that's the chidush, that even it's so small, it's asur mid'Rabbanan. So meaning prohibition. Rav Ashi disagree. Amar kol makom sheyesh maka, makato mochiach alav. Says, look, if it's a place that it's wound, so you can put there for makne. Why? Because everyone see that it's a wound. So it's a wound. There's not the intent to have a tattoo. It's just for the wound. The Shach in Yoreh De'ah Kuf Pei explain that people see that it's for healing and it's not chukot hagoyim. It's not to do idol worshiping. Tosfot said halacha. So Rav Ashi, the Rif, Rosh, Ritva, Meiri agreed that that's the halacha. Mishnah. Now the Mishnah speaks about how many malkiyot penalty a person incur in separate penalty for each infraction. Nazir shaya shote yain kol hayom. A person that is a Nazirite, but he separated during the day, but he was drinking all day. So he received only one warning at the start of the day prior to initial drink. Ein chayav ela achat, because he drank close to the hatra'ah, to the warning. Amru lo al tishte, meaning they told him constantly, separately for each drink that he should not drink. Vehu shoteh chayav al kol achad ve'achat. Kept drinking, so he's liable to separate Malkot penalty for each and every drink. Hayam mitameh lametin kol hayom. If the Nazir connect to a corpse and they warn him only once, eno chayav ela achat, אמרו לו, אל תיטמא, אל תיטמא, והוא מיטמא, חייב על כל אחד ואחד. Again, the same notion, each time they warn him, so each time he is obligated. The Rav Yosef, in the Tractate Nazir, page 42, and other places explain that the idea that he distanced from the deceased, from the corpse, and he come back and touch him, and then they brought him another one, another corpse. But there is a Ravid in Ilchot Nezirut, chapter 5, that explained it differently, this Mishnah. היה מגלח כל היום, אינו חייב אלא אחת. אמרו לו אל תגלח, אל תגלח, והוא מגלח, חייב על כל אחד ואחד. The same idea. היה לבוש בכלאיים כל היום, אינו חייב אלא אחת. אמרו לו אל תלבש, אל תלבש, והוא פושט ולובש, חייב על כל אחד ואחד. The same way as a diverse kind. He did it, and the warning constantly, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. And he continued removing the shatnez garment and donning it anyway. so he has deserved Malkot penalty for each and every act of wearing sha'atnez. 21b. Up to this point, the Mishnah explained to us the law if someone dealt with violation of transgression of one single violation several times, how exactly he received the Malkuyot punishment. Now it go to someone who does one act and it's involved in several violations. So the Chidush Tosfot Rabbeinu Peretz explain, you see it also in Rabbeinu Ovadia Mebar Tenura, that if they for warning, he trubo, they give him a warning in advance, so he received Malkot for each and every one of them. There is a general rule when it's come to Isurim, to the prohibition. Something that is prohibited in the Torah, you do not have any Isur Acher Halalav, you don't have other Isur on that. So for example, woman that's called by the Torah law Zonah. Zonah, as you know, we explained many times, it's a different concept, that it was act of creating it by desecration. It's not the typical idea, but in general, she is prohibited to Kohen. So if the Kohen violated the law and cohabited with her, so basically that turned to be halala. In addition to zonah is also halala, which means that she's no longer by any means, the descendants cannot be Kohanim by any means, but then she married and divorced, she became grusha, so she can be zonah, halala, and grusha. So Kohen that cohabited with her, he received Malkot violation only for the zonah, that was the first Isu, the first prohibition applies here. Why? We learn in Kiddushin 77, the Braita, that an Isu chal al Isu, the prohibition, one cannot go the others. But all of that applies if it happens in a separate time, separate entity. But if it was happened bevat achat, all together, so then it's combining with on. The Rambam in Perush HaMishnayot explains that even the Shmonata Isurim, the count of 8 prohibition, which the Mishnah speaks, will come bevat achat, in one shot, that's the reason why the Torah rules that he received Malkot ar kulam. There are cases, the Gemara in Kiddushin 77, the Gemara in Yevamot 32 and others, say that it is some situation that you have Isur Chal al Isur. For example, if the last one Mosif al Arishon, etc. Let's zoom in the text. Yesh choresh telem echad v'chayav alav mishum shmona lavim. There is a case that someone, he plow a single furrow in the field, and he is in account of violating 8 prohibition, and therefore you have 8 Malkot penalties. How? So here is the list. The Torah said in Deuteronomy 22 verse 10, Lo tacharosh b'shor v'chamor yachdav, you shall not plow together an ox and donkey the same time. Hachoresh b'shor v'chamor. If someone did that, which is he plows with the ox and donkey yoke together. Number 2 and 3, vehen, the ox and the donkey, mukdashim, they are consecrated, which is they are firstborn to their mother. So he is in violation of what the Torah said in Deuteronomy 15, verse 19, Lo ta'avod bivchor shorecha, you shall not put a labor upon the firstborn of your ox. And the same rules, but a separate violation is the one who did with Peter Chamor. Number 4, v'chil'ayim becherem, one who used a diverse kind, it's called kilayim, which is mingled species, in a vineyard. So, for example, you have a seed of grape and other type of seeds, and he combined it. Kilei zra'im, which is a person should not have wheat and barley together, but the whole idea of diverse kind, there is a write-up in Aruch Laner and Ritva explain how far, but the Torah, as far as the text, is Dvarim 22 verse 9, Lot tizra karmecha kil'aim. Number 5, he did it when, unfortunately, in the year that we are prohibited to do it in Israel, Uvashvi'it, it was the sabbatical Shemitah year. So the Torah tells us in the book of Vayikra, chapter 25, verse 4, Ubashana hashvi'it, at the 7th year, Sadcha lo tizra, which means a person is prohibited to plow those seeds, and therefore, if he does that, he is in a violation. Most of the Rishonim say that even the plowing itself is prohibited, the Shvi'it na Torah. Number 6, V'yom Tov, and does that on the festival, which the Torah said in Vayikra 23, Eile Moadei Hashem, Mikra'ei Kodesh, this is the holidays, Kol Melechet Avodah Lo Ta'asu, any time. So in short, the way that Aruch Laner and the Rivan said, that here when Hananiah, when he referred to both Kohen and Nazir, we understand that, but since he wasn't precise, that was the issue. But anyway, let's continue with the Gemara. The Mishnah teaches us over situations someone he is wearing and taking off, continue removing and donning a kil'aim, a sha'atnez garment, combination of tzemer and pishtim. I think the translation is the woolen linen. And each and every time they warn him before he was wearing. So we said in the Mishnah that he received Malkot for each and every time that he wore it. So now we need to examine the clear definition of poshet velovesh, removing and donning. Amar Rav Bibi, Amar Rav Yosei, and some said Asi, poshet velovesh, lovesh mamash, או אפילו מכניס ומוציא בית יד אונקלי שלו. So the question here, you meant to say that it's actually take the garments off and then don it? Or you meant to say that even if he slips his arm in and out of the sleeve of his sha'atnez shirt? So that's a kind of, you treat it as a separate act of removing and donning the garments. That's the way that we have the Girsa here, the Bach and Masoret HaShas, based on Yalkut Shimoni, and you see it also in the Rif and the Rosh. The Girsa is Lo poshet velovesh mamash, ela afilu machnis umotzi. Anyway, so he said, Machvei Rav Acha Brei Rav Ika Ayulei Va'apukei. So he, Rav Acha Bar Rav Ika, wants to demonstrate it. So he was showing the act of slipping in and out. So that's basically the Rivan explained that is act of someone who deserved this punishment because it was in and out in sleeping. Rav Ashi Omer, there is another opposite opinion. Rav Ashi said, Afilu lo shaha ela kedei lifshot velilbosh. Even he is not physically removed the garments at all, but he stood still and he carries it, he wearing it for the certain period of time that average person take to these garments in and out. That's sufficient to receive a separate Malkot penalty because he was each warning the person's ignore. The Ritva elaborates and he said, when the Torah tells us that we are prohibited lot tilbash sha'atnez, we're not allowed to carry something that it's the both tzemer and pishtim, wool and linen. So that's included that the person should not stand while he is levush kilaim, while he wear both of them. The Nimukei Yosef and Tosfot Chance and other challenge that. You see Sha'agat Aryeh, Siman Lamed Bet, Sha'agat Aryeh HaChadashot, that he explained it a little more. Yesh Choresh Telem, so the Mishnah continues and it says, there is a case when one plows a furrow and he is liable on account of it for transgressing 8 prohibitions. So Ma'aseh Harisha Achat, but he have 8. So one of them in the Mishnah is the prohibition, as we explained earlier, of Isur Zri'at Kilaim, the prohibition about for planting a diverse kind in the ground. So the Gemara commented on that and said, Amar Rabbi Yanai said, Bachavura, meaning the Rivan said when the sages gathered together, convened to discuss this halacha, Nimnu vegamru, so they voted and make a final decision. Hachofe bechilaim loke, a person who covers seeds of diverse kinds with earth incurs lashes for sowing seeds of kilaim. Covering the mingled seeds with earth is a legal equivalent of actually sowing them. So the Gemara challenged, and they said, Amar le Rabbi Yochanan said to Rabbi Yanai, Lav Mishnatenu hi? We learn, Yesh Choresh Telem Echad. We learn in the Mishnah, there is a case when one plows single furrow. Vechayav alav mishum shmona lavim, and he received 8 separate Malkot for violating of 8 separate commandment, negative commandment. Hachoresh b'shor b'chamor, one who plow with the mix of ox and donkey. Vehen mukdashim, as we said in the Mishnah, that they are also consecrated to heaven. Vechil'aim becherem, we said that when you have a vineyard of kilaim, involving kilaim in a vineyard, Hai choresh de michayav mishum kilaim. So Rabbi Yochanan asked a question: who is liable for Malkot for transgressing the prohibition against kilaim? Heiche mashkachat la. How exactly you analyze the violation that he is liable? Because the Torah prohibited only zri'ah, which is planting a diverse kind. What exactly the prohibition of plowing? That's the way the Ritva explains. Lav dim chasei ba'adei, the azil, it is not where he covers the mingled seeds with earth while he was going with his plow. And the Mishnah itself teaches that this covering constitutes sowing. So what then are you adding here? So Rabbi Yanai responded and said, Amar lei, you are right, that chofe bekilaim is the same as zorea. Ilav de didlai lai chaspa. If I did not cover for you, lifted for you a shard that covered this margalit, mimashkachat marganita tuta. If I didn't teach it, it's like a simile, like a metaphor, a allegory. It says, if I did not teach you that one who chofer in kilaim is the same as someone who planted, you didn't learn the Mishnah properly, and you may be misconstrued. So, in a way, he says, would you have found the pearl lying under it, which without my explicit statement about covering, you will have explained the Mishnah differently. So, my brother-in-law, Rav David Avram Mandelbaum of Bnei Brak, he wrote a series of books. One of them is Daf al Daf. It's in the Shas, every Daf explanations. So here I just want to quote what he brought from the Sfat Emet, great Hasidic Rebbe of Gur, he wrote in the Torah portion of Va'era a midrash. When the Almighty said to Moshe Rabbeinu, Va'era el Avraham el Yitzchak ve'el Yaakov, so it's Ta'er HaKadosh Baruch Hu in our anthropomorphic way. God felt sorry, ve'amar chaval al de'avdin. So he asked this medrash what he meant, because the continual pasuk they said, Ushmi Hashem lo nodati lahem, meaning only to Moshe Rabbeinu. So if his madrega, his level, is higher, why he feels sorry for the avot? But he said, here we understand, kevan de dala chaspa ashtakach marganita, which means because the avot hekdimo et avodatam precedes their work, their labor that paved the way, huchshera, it's paved the way to Moshe Rabbeinu to reach his heights. And without lulei ma'aseh ha'avot shekadmu, without the act of the predecessors, the Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Moshe Rabbeinu could not reach his heights, and therefore, kivyachol, itztaer HaKadosh Baruch Hu al aveidatam. You're welcome to read more in David Daf al Daf. אמר לרב ששת לרבי יוחנן, אליו דקילסה רבה גברה רבה, if Rabbi Yanai, who is a great man, did not praise you so much, and he agree with you that the prohibition of kil'aim, the Mishnah prohibited, it's because covering the plant in dust is the same as planting, and that's follow everyone. Hava amina, I thought that chofe bekilaim, it's not the same as zorea. Umatnitin, that said that one who choresh in kilaim receive malkot, mani Rabbi Akiva he. So it's follow the view of Rabbi Akiva, the Amar who said, "Mekayem kil'ayim loke," one who maintain a diverse kind, he receive malkot, he receive lashes. So you have here the Rivan and other Mefarshim hold that even the sages that disputed Rabbi Akiva and hold that one who mekayem kil'ayim not receive malkot, they agree that mechape loke because the same as zorea. Not everyone goes this way. The Rivan expanded a lot. We're running out of time. My Rabbi Akiva. The Gemara asks, what is this ruling of Rabbi Akiva? Detanya. We learned in a Braita. Ha-menakesh, one who pulls out weeds, meaning he pull out bad weeds from a sadeh zru'a bekil'aim. You have a field that contain a diverse kind, and he basically ameliorated, improved the quality of the zra'im of the plant by removing those who are bad seeds or bad grass or bad other part of asavim, herbs. Ve'hamechape bekil'aim, and one who covers seeds with earth. So you have here pull out weeds or cover seed with earth, thereby fostering the growth of kil'aim. Loke, so he received malkot, lashes. Rabbi Akiva Omer, not only those who help their growth, af ha-mekayem, even one who maintain kil'aim in his field is also receive malkot. So you see here that Rabbi Akiva hold that one who receive malkot for maintaining kil'aim. So now the Gemara explain a little further. You see here the Beit HaLevi and Siach Yitzchak and Keren Orah, so much Aruch Laner on this sugya. I wish to have more time. My Tama de Rabbi Akiva. What's the reasoning of his Torah basis? Where you know it? The Tanya. We learn the Torah, we're zooming the book of Vayikra, chapter 19, verse 19. Sadcha lo tizra kil'aim. So the pasuk, according to Aruch Laner, speaks about diverse kil'ei zra'im. Reish Lakish said that that's our Mishnah that speak about kil'ei hakerem. Ein li ela zorea. We understand that someone only who saw kil'aim violated this prohibition. How about hamekayem, one who maintained kil'aim? Minayin. How do you know also that he is a chayav? Malkot. Talmud lomar, we derive, the Torah said, Be'emtecha lo tarbia kil'ayim, sadcha lo tilcha kil'ayim. So since they use the word kil'ayim in smichut, in the conjunction one another, so it means that the person is prohibited to have kil'ayim in his field, meaning you do not allow to, there's a prohibition to allow kil'ayim in a person's field. So now we challenge Rabbi Yanai, who said that the chofeh is the same as zorea. Amar le ula le Rav Nachman, velil kename mishum zorea biyom tov, because while he was plowing, while he's sowing, as the convention, he does that. He lashes because the sowing on Yom Tov is prohibited, and you have here choresh plowing and planting in Yom Tov, sowing in Yom Tov. So you should incur Malkot separate for each and every one of them. So what you see here, that chopeh is not zorea. So they basically follow Reish Lakish. So Amar Lei, Rav Nachman said, Tana Veshayer. He said that the Tana Mishnah states some of the prohibition, nomit and others. So he never meant to give a full listing of the plowing related prohibitions one can violate. You see the Ramban and the Ritva on the Sugya expanded. Amar Lei, Ula said to Rav Nachman, Tanak Katane Shmona. The Tana said to us a clear number, which is 8 8 list of prohibitions. Ve'at amart Tana v'shayer, who said that he state only some prohibition, omitted others. That's not the way that we understand the Mishnah. Amar lei Rava said to Ula, yes, chipui zera is considering the same as zri'ah, so it means that the person will violate of 2 melachot, avot melachot in Yom Tov, but he received only 1 malkot. Yesh chiluk melachot b'Shabbat ve'ein chiluk melachot b'Yom Tov. We have a differentiation between someone who does type of work, melachot, like harash, zara, katzar, do all kind of melachot on Shabbat, and he forget that it's prohibited on Shabbat, so he needs to bring a sin offering to each and every one of them, versus one who did it in Yom Tov, intentional. So if they warn him only one time, he received only 1 malkot. So consequently, when a person plows and so on Yom Tov, he accrues only malkut penalty for both labors. Amar le, so Ula said to Rava, Adatehe. So that's basically the correct answer to the word of Rabbi Yanai, that even though we hold that the chopeh, you treat it the same as zorea, plowing is the same as sowing. But if someone did it on the holiday, on the Yom Tov, he received only 1 malkot. Why? Because you don't have chiluk melachot on Yom Tov. Eitivei. Abaye challenged Rava. Ve'ein chiluk melachot b'Yom Tov. There is no separation melachot when it's come to holiday, the Yom Tov ve'hatnan. We learn over Hatanya, hamevashel gid bechalav b'Yom Tov. As we know that gid anasheh is one of the it's like, I think it's a sciatic nerve. Anyway, and Yom Tov va'achalo, hypothetically eats it. So therefore, mishum ochel gid, he violated what the Torah said in the Bereshit 32-33. They said, after Yaakov wrestled with the Malach, al ken lo yochlu bnei Yisrael et gid anasheh, we are prohibited to eat the gid anasheh. Number 2, veloke, and he received malkut because he cooked it, mishum mevashel biyom tov shelo letzorech, because the Torah said in Vayikra, chapter 23, verse 7, eile moadei Hashem kol melechet avodah lo taso. So cooking is av melacha, and the only heter, the only allowance is if it's letzorech achila, if a person needs it for the immediate need of food, but shelo letzorech malkot. Number 3, ולוקה משום מבשל גיד בחלב, because the Torah said לא תבשל גדי בחלב עמו in שמות 23 verse 19. Number 4, ולוקה משום אוכל בשר בחלב, and in Collusive for eating meat and milk that they are cooked together. That's another derivation from lo tevashel. The Torah said 3 times, you shall not cook a kid in its mother's milk. In Shmot 23, in Shmot 34, in Dvarim 14. So the Gemara in Chulin, page 115b, tells us that that applies 3 different prohibitions. One is the prohibition against cooking meat and milk together. 2, the prohibition against eating some mixed milk and meat that will cook together. 3, any derivative of enjoyment, pleasant, that come out from that combination of milk and meat. So it means if you have some employee in your restaurant, kosher restaurant, that combine milk and meat, and you figure out, let me take this part and give it to Anthony in an Italian restaurant next door. No, you cannot do it, because you derive indirectly benefit, the Torah said, from that. Just use this as an example. The whole question of Isu Charval Isu, we do not have time for that, but there is a discussion, you see it more in the Rambam, in Pirush HaMishnayot Likritut 13, why here it's not the idea of Isu Halal Isu. And number 5, Veloke, and he received the 5th set of Malkot, of lashes. Page 22, Mishum Hav'ara, because he is kindling a fire on Yom Tov, but it was unnecessary. V'im ita mishum hav'ara lo mechayev da ichayev le mishum bishulo, because you already incurred Malkot for cooking gid on Yom Tov. So the Gemara respond, we're running out of time, okay? Apik avera ve'ayel gid anashe shel nevela, v'atane Rabbi Chia loke 2 על אכילתו ו3 על בישולו, ואם איתה 3 על אכילתו הוא חייב, אלא אפיק avera ve'ayel עצי אשרה, והזהרתם מאחה ולא ידבק בך, וגומר אמר לרבך ברדרה ולרבשי, ולילקנה משום ולא תביא תועבה אל ביתך, אלא אחא מעסקינן, כגון שבשלו בעצי הקדש, והזהרתם מאחה, ואשר הם תשרפון באש, לא תעשו כן להשם אלוקיכם.